Basically, the blood pressure is the pressure of the blood as it goes through our arteries. Our arteries are there to give us oxygen, to give us our nutrients throughout our whole body. But what happens sometimes is that our arteries become a little bit constricted or become each time narrow because of maybe the foods we're eating, more fat, more cholesterol. And then the blood has a very difficult time passing through the arteries, and that's when our blood pressure goes up. How many of you know your values of blood pressure? You know, there's two values, right? An upper value and a lower number. How many of you are aware of what is your current blood pressure? Police is mentioning 120/80, which is what we call the normal blood pressure. Perfect. So standard systolic is the upper one, 120 and 80. Diastolic is the lower one, 120/80. You were going to say something.
Somebody comes to take it, so they all should know theirs.
Oh, nice, nice. So your name is? So Monica's telling us that you should all know your blood pressure because somebody comes around to take it on a regular basis.
Semi-regular, yeah.
Semi-regular, okay, good. And you know, it is important to know your values. So we're saying 120/80 is normal values. And you know, in the last few years, our government and our medical committees are becoming a little bit more stricter because they know the closer our values are to normal, well, it's better, right? And it avoids things like diabetes or heart disease or stroke. So we do want to know our values. If someone is coming here on a semi-regular basis, I encourage you to know your values, and that's going to help you out. Whenever you've got something like over 140, over 90, you should be cautious because sometimes high blood pressure is a silent killer, meaning you really don't sometimes feel those symptoms. How many of you, what kind of symptoms have you had when you had high blood pressure? Dizziness, okay. Lisa's saying dizziness. Linda? Blurred vision is another one. Perfect. And the important thing is that we sometimes might get it confused with if we have diabetes, it might be our sugars are up or down, right? Headaches, we can get headaches as well. Entonces síntomas pueden ser de la presión alta que tenemos dolores de cabeza o confusión, ¿no? Temblores, balance, falta de equilibrio. So balance is another one. Perfect. So there are, symptoms that sometimes we have, and it's good that our body is warning us, but most of the time we might not have any symptom, and that's when, again, the values and knowing the figures are so important. I also just wanted to add before going into the tips is that since January this year, our government has also been a little bit stricter on the quantity of salt we should be consuming. So how many of you have an idea, if you don't have any blood pressure issues or high blood pressure, how many teaspoons, tablespoons do you think we should be consuming on a daily basis? 1 teaspoon says Linda. Who says more? Who says less?
I say less, I do.
Monica is saying less. What are you saying?
About
half a teaspoon. Yes, sir. What are you saying? 2 teaspoons. And your name is? Ignacio. So Ignacio is telling us 2 teaspoons. Does anyone else have any other comments of teaspoons, tablespoons? ¿Cuántas cucharadas o cucharaditas cree usted que deberíamos consumir de sal a diario? Acá me están diciendo media, 1, 2. ¿Alguna sugerencia? Poquita, ok. Usted dice poquita, perfecto. Poquita, well, just to give you an idea, because, obviously visuals are simple, Monica was absolutely right. In general, they're telling us half a teaspoon. But if we do have high blood pressure, well, they're speaking about 1/8 of a teaspoon. And I do want to tell you not to, drive you crazy with teaspoons or tablespoons, but because salt isn't everywhere, except for like oil or vinegar, everything has sodium, that's the problem, right? And I'm going to even show you some, yogurt label, just so you have an idea that things that don't taste salty, still have sodium in them. And that's the important thing why we're emphasizing our farmers market, because one of the great tips when we're trying to maintain or lower our blood pressure is to consume a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, or even cooked, right? But that's a great value with very low sodium. So let's go into some other specific tips. How many of you consume about 3 or 4 portions or servings of vegetables and fruits on a regular or a daily basis? Monica, and you do, Monica, what is it you consume?
I mostly live off of food. I don't know if I can go high, and then I try to eat, I like to eat
Calabacitas, okay, so.
and yams. Yeah.
And yams.
I don't care for, I eat lots of food like that. I don't care for tomatoes.
Okay. But you're getting your vegetables and fruits and about, you try to. Anybody else who can share some experience of vegetables and fruits on a daily basis? Yes, Ignacio.
No, I'm gonna say I'm sorry. I mentioned two teaspoons of salt. Let them know I'm sorry. I meant sugar. I meant to say sugar.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for clearing that up. Oh, you're
Mentioned two.
no problem. But on the contrary, Ignacio, that's a great point you make because, you know, I think none of us would really imagine like having teaspoons that are like so little. And like I say, if we start reading our labels, all of us are consuming much more, even us nutritionists that are the experts, because again, salt is everywhere. So please don't be sorry. You know, salt is a difficult one to take care of. I think it's easier to take care of sugars than salt.
No.
Yes, Monica.
No, I do it now.
Oh, okay. So fruits and vegetables. Now there's a government program called the DASH diet. It's a meal plan dietary approach to stopping hypertension. It's been around for many years, and what they're trying to emphasize is that we really should consume 5 to 9 servings of vegetables and fruits every day. So I know that we don't even consume 3 or 4 or 5 on a regular basis. Sometimes we try, sometimes we don't. We have other activities, but think if we would all, and that's also on your notes, just so you have a better notion to take home. Imagine if we could all be really striving for, not that we have to be a vegetarian, but striving for those 5 and 9 small servings of vegetables and fruits on a daily basis. Again, vegetables and fruits are also low in sodium and high in fibers and high in other minerals that also can lower our sodium. I mean, that would be just fantastic. Now, which ways do you consume vegetables and fruits? When you think of vegetables and fruits, what are you all doing at home? What do you like now that summer's coming along? What's your preference for the use of vegetables and fruits? Zucchini? What do you do with your zucchini? Okay. So very natural. Just the zucchini, tomatoes, and let it cook. Maybe add some natural herbs or something.
I just like to watch a show and bring my celery or bell peppers or cucumbers, and without skinning them, I just cut them in slices. Chew them away.
Chew them away.
Chew them program.
Oh, nice. And there's so many programs out there, where we can really get ideas. I just love, weekend Saturday, just watching all these programs, because then I can kind of modify, like all of you do, right, as well, and come up with some simple ideas for everyday cooking. So again, an important thing Ignacio mentioned is trying to maintain the skin, that's high in fiber. So anything of vegetables and fruits that you can avoid peeling or peeling very little, that's a great advantage. And a great advantage of your vegetables and fruits related to sodium is that they're very high in magnesium and potassium. And these are 2 important minerals that help balance and lower your sodium levels. So even if you say, oh wow, today was a bad day for me, I really ate lots of sodium intake. Well, maybe at dinner you're trying to say, hey, let me eat more vegetables and fruits, and that magnesium and potassium can counterbalance all that sodium that you're eating at the beginning of the day. Another great tip to lower sodium are the herbs, those fresh herbs. How many of you maybe have a little little pot with some basil at home or cilantro. How many of you are fond of parsley or sage? Yes. You don't think you've got something at home. Garlic. Yeah. What your name is? Mercy. So Mercy's telling us green onions. And you know, that's the bad thing or the disadvantage when we don't consume or we have to take care of our sodium levels. Well, the food usually is bland. So what do we do to kind of counterbalance that? So again, if you can even grow something at home, or you want to just buy, like we're saying, the green onions, garlic, leeks, cilantro, parsley, your basil, any of those fresh herbs that are also rich in vitamin C for your immune system, that's a fantastic way to add flavor to your foods. And the other way that one of you, I think Lisa was also mentioning, was that we have salt substitutes based on potassium, or things that we have here like a Mrs. Dash, McCormick,